The San Francisco 49ers fall in a rainy Levi's Stadium.
While fans and analysts debate the Buckeyes' playoff chances, one thing is clear, Ryan Day isn't going anywhere.
Jimmy Butler addressed the reports regarding a potential trade, but did we get any real clarity on the situation?
Let's get into what matters for the Cincinnati Bengals.
New man on campus, specifically new quarterback.
The Locked On Podcast Network presents the Big 6 in 60. The 6 biggest national sports stories from the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network. Get the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 60 minutes. The Big 6 in 60 starts now with the biggest story in sports. You are Locked On Rams Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Los Angeles.
Sean McVay was interviewed at halftime, or coming out. I don't know if it was going into the halftime break or coming out of the break. I think it was coming out. And he just said, it's one of those games. We heard Al Michaels say it, despite how sleepy he is on the broadcast. In my humble opinion, he's a legend. But at this stage in his career, I think he gets a little sleepy. But he said it a million times. Kirk Herbstreit said it a million times. Sean McVay said it at halftime. This is just one of those games. And it always is, whenever it's a division battle, especially between the Rams and Niners. It's always going to be physical and gritty. And there's chess matches going back and forth. You've got two of the best offensive minds. We know how similar the offenses are for both Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay, coming from the same tree. It's all about running the football. It's all about the motion, the pre-snap, all of that. But especially everything in this battle, in this rivalry, the chess match between the two offensive minds, their commitment to physicality, dominating the line of scrimmage, running the football, hard tackling, all of that is amped up exponentially by the rain. And in the second segment, I'm going to say, I'm almost going to, I always try to have a nuanced take, all right? I'm not just going to come in with the obvious things, all right? Obviously, we have to talk about the rain. In the second segment, I'm going to say, don't overreact too much to the rain and don't let it blind you from what we saw on the field. But, of course, the rain was a factor. Of course, it was a factor. And it just made two offenses that are already going to rely on the run to get their offense going turn into two offenses that really only could gain yardage consistently through the run game and then have the occasional shot play. Whenever there's a close game like this, the first thing, of course, is win however you can. Win however you can, of course, especially a game like this late in the year that means as much as this one did. If the Rams lose this one, their season is arguably over. Because then you're in a four-way crazy tie in the NFC West where you have to run the table and get help, right? Of course, win at all costs, and we did that. The second thing is, how proud am I of this Rams team to win this way? If we won this way and every single, if we were I don't name X team that wins. Honestly, if we were like the Chiefs, and we won like this, I mean, the Chiefs win like this every week, but that's kind of my point. If we're the Chiefs and you win like this and it's another tight game where your offense looks lackadaisical, you're thinking, this is really a concern. But not today at all. If anything, I'm satisfied that we now know the Rams can win in multiple ways. They can win the 44-42 against an MVP in Josh Allen in a pristine, clean, perfect weather SoFi Stadium. But they can also win an absolute nitty-gritty, old-fashioned 1980s in Chicago Snow Soldier Field type of game in the rain. Win the line of scrimmage, convert on third downs, all the big plays went the Rams' way, and you steal a win. Whenever the game's going to be this close, you're always going to look at a few key plays, but really, in my opinion, this game can be summarized by like five or six, as I'm struggling to talk early on in this show. About 5 or 6 key plays decided this game. And I think it's sometimes lazy to say that, to be the Monday morning quarterback, the Stephen A. Smiths, the Max Kellermans, the whoever that is on Fox Sports now, and say it comes down to a few plays. But this game, it felt like two teams just running the ball and running the ball and running the ball, and then a couple huge plays. First one, in my opinion, that Deebo Samuel drop early in the game. Huge. It's a quick slant. Deebo Samuel, how ironic. The Niners fans, in my opinion, rightfully booing him as he goes online, says that he's not playing poorly, he's just not getting the ball. The Niners do everything they can to give him the ball. They're handing him the ball off multiple times. I was talking to one of my Niner friends early in this game, and he was saying, man, we're really overcompensating. We're giving Deebo Samuel back-to-back carries. There was a 3rd and 5, and they ran the ball to Deebo Samuel. So they were doing everything they could to get this man the ball. And how ironic. They get him wide open, quick slant. He's going to catch it. He's going to run it into the end zone for what would have been the only touchdown of the football game. Right? If this was 44-42 last week, one touchdown not happening does not make or break it. But when there's not a single touchdown in this game, and Deebo Samuel drops what would have been probably a 30-yard walk into the end zone, quick slant touchdown, and he drops it, and they only get 3, that's one of the biggest plays of the game, period. Second big play of the game, in my opinion, and this one's a bit obvious, but it's the interception by Brock Purdy. Awful throw. And it's ironic. Matthew Stafford had many bad throws tonight. We'll talk about that in the second segment and the third segment a little bit. He did not look good. He had a lot of questionable throws. But by far, the most questionable throw, and it was not even close, was that throw from Brock Purdy. What in the world was he thinking? I get it. The Rams kind of quickly, at the last second, disguised the coverage, and he just threw it up. But jump ball one-on-one turned into jump ball into double coverage that was completely overthrown anyways. Easy interception. Purdy was not his best self. And part of it is because of the dominance of the defensive line for the Rams, which we will certainly talk about as well. But those two plays are huge. And the last one, honorable mention, the Puka Nacua deep bomb. It was the only big play of the game, right? Neither offense could generate any big plays because of the rain, partially, because of the defensive lines of both teams, because of the lack of execution, honestly, except for that Puka deep ball. So you have to mention that one. But the last big play, of course, is the one that basically clinches the game. 3rd down. And Cooper Kupp deserves so much credit in this game for a guy who had no catches. There's not many guys you can say that about. But we know the type of team player, the all-time team player that Cooper Kupp is. 0 catches on 3 targets. And yet, because he's Cooper Kupp, on a 3rd down, when the Rams can put the game away with the 1st down, Cooper Kupp goes in motion. 2 guys follow him. And right there, the tight end, wide open for the game-clinching catch. Huge. Huge. Those 3 or 4 plays decided the football game. So sure, does Kyron Williams deserve a ton of credit for turning an ugly game into 29 for 108 on the ground? Sure. Does Matthew Stafford deserve some credit for a couple big-time throws in an otherwise stinky game? Yes. Does Puka deserve all sorts of credit for his 7 for 97, including that 51-yard bomb? They were giving him the ball on, end arounds. They were giving them the ball on quick screens, doing everything they could to get Puka involved. And boy, oh boy, does that defense and Mr. Kobe Turner deserve so much credit. And I'm just teasing here because we're going to get to that throughout this show as well. They all deserve so much credit individually. Sean McVay, of course. But those 3 or 4 plays really decided the game, in my opinion. Other than that, there was not a touchdown in this game. So other than the Puka bomb, the biggest plays of the game were the missed opportunities for the Niners. Deebo drop, Brock Purdy pick, and then the missed opportunity to get the Rams off the field on 3rd down. So at the end of the day, you got to win. You got to find a way to do it. And this was not a great performance by many parts of this Rams offense. But what it was good enough. And once again, the big takeaway is if you had won an ugly game the last 6 times you won, you'd be concerned that maybe the Rams just aren't good. But when you can win 44-42, winning 12-6, it just proves more that this team is built to maybe make a run. They can win a game in multiple ways now. And this defense announced to the entire country, once again, like I've been saying, they're not great all over the place, certainly. But they are rising and improving. And if they find that stride in these last couple of weeks, the Rams will be in the playoffs. And they might even make some noise in the playoffs.
Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
The San Francisco 49ers fall in a Rady Levi's Stadium.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
12-6 A bonanza of field goals, Croc, in what was a pretty ugly game to start the Week 15 schedule. Extra ugly for the San Francisco 49ers, who had to have this game if they had any thoughts of maybe making a run at the end of this season and trying to sneak into the playoffs. Niners fall to 6-8 on the year, and the Rams improve. They've won 7 of 9, I believe, now, and have improved to 8-6 on the season and put themselves in a really good spot here as they go down the stretch. And we might have a Week 18 matchup between the Rams and the Seahawks for the West. And in this game, if we're going to put it simply, Croc, and look, they didn't have to make a lot of big plays. They kicked 3 field goals in the fourth quarter, a field goal in the second quarter, right? 12-6 was the score. You didn't have to make very many plays to win this game. The Rams made a few. The 49ers made none.
The 49ers had some opportunities, and early on there were a couple of dropped interceptions, and I knew with just the way that I felt this game would kind of play out. You had the weather. Clearly early on, both quarterbacks weren't as sharp as you ideally would like. But when you have opportunities to make interceptions, it was first Diamador Lenore. He undercut a route, let it go straight to his hands. And I believe on the very next drive, Tyler Nofunga, albeit he does have a club on his hand, he dropped one that hit him in the chest. And I won't give him a pass. I will not give him a pass for dropping the interception with a club, because I have a high school kid who played the second half of our season with the club on his hand, and he made a diving interception with the club. So no passes will be given out for Hufanga not making that play. But I think there were several plays in this game that 49er players could have potentially changed the trajectory of this game. And I think we can definitely go to Deebo Samuel. I think 49er fans are kind of outraged with, not just because of his play in this game or the drop that he had, but I think a lot of it has to do with some of the comments that he made heading into this game. But I'm not going to let 49er fans put this game on Deebo or the dropped interceptions. One of my biggest things I like to say is there's always going to be things that happen early in games or throughout a game that can obviously change the trajectory of how it turns out. But there's still a person that is in control of how it comes out. And when you think of the great QBs, guys that get paid a lot of money, especially a guy by the name of Patrick Mahomes, which might be the greatest quarterback I've ever seen, right? But, Tom Brady, whatever. But we'll talk specifically about Mahomes and this season. Right now, the Kansas City Chiefs, they have 1 loss. And the reason why is because no matter how the game is going, no matter how many times he turns the ball over in the game or things don't go his way, he figures out a way to make the play and the throw when it needs to be made. We've seen it time and time again. Heck, I just saw the last game they were on primetime television last week. Brock Purdy had some opportunities to make some plays and make some throws. Hell, forget the interception. Just go a drive later when the 49ers are trying to get into, some maybe a Hail Mary type of range or something like that. And he had Ricky Pearsall open on the out and overthrows him. So not a sharp day by him. But when you have an opportunity, it's a tight game, right? It's a tight game. Again, things aren't going your way. It's on my guy that we're potentially going to pay a lot of money to help us. You're not supposed to add to the woes. You're not supposed to add to the issues. And he continues to underthrow guys consistently throughout this entire season. There were some that were caught that should have been touchdowns, and the 49ers not end up scoring because they've been so bad in the red zone. And then tonight, he underthrows George Kittle, who had a defender beat. A lot of people are like, oh, pass interference. It shouldn't have even been close to pass interference because the ball should have been out further. But he's underthrowing guys. And then later in the game, he has an opportunity. Ricky Pearsall running the post. You got him. He's got Keller Witherspoon by a couple of steps and underneath. Throw it out there. He underthrows Ricky Pearsall. Lets Keller Witherspoon recover. He breaks up the ball. All right. And then the very next play, after I tweeted out, dang, this dude's been underthrowing passes all season. He overthrows. He's overcompensating now. And not just overthrow. You overthrow a ball, whatever. It's a double coverage heave down the right sideline. It was never a good decision to make that throw or attempt that throw. And it gets picked off, ultimately ending the 49er season, any chance they have of the postseason. So there's a lot of blame to go around with the loss that the 49ers just had. But the biggest, in my opinion, goes to the guy that touches the ball every single play and had opportunities to pull the 49ers out of it. That's what the big money quarterbacks are supposed to do, and Brock Purdy didn't do it.
I don't think you have to take blame away from one player to place it on another. I think it's on all of them. Purdy was not good in this game. He missed way too many throws. But when he made a throw, the guys that could have helped him out couldn't help him out either. And so it's everybody. It goes the big miss to Ricky Pearsall on the deep ball. Perfect throw from Purdy in the rain. That's a touchdown, right? Should be. But it's Purdy, and it's in the rain. And we know it's not going to be perfect. And I thought Pearsall did a terrible job of trying to come back, and he could have helped his guy out. Maybe made a play on it. You're asking a lot from the rookie. And good. Look, it's not a good throw. Should be a touchdown throw. But does Puka Nacua make that catch? Probably. He'd have made a better attempt at it than Ricky Pearsall did. But you're right. On the last drive, he misses Pearsall on the out. That could get you in position to try to do something there. The 49ers can't even get off a Hail Mary throw. And Purdy gets sacked to end the game. That last play of the game, the sack, not even able to get a throw off, was a microcosm of the entire season for the San Francisco 49ers. So you're right. Purdy was not good in this game. You're looking for your quarterback to make a play, and he can't do it. And when he does make a throw, then the receivers can't make a play for the quarterback. And then if you want to blame Debo, you also have to blame the guy who's force-feeding the football early in the game. The crowd was booing Debo after that drop. First play of the game is a slant to Debo, broken up by, guess who? Ahkello Witherspoon, who, by the way, Ahkello Witherspoon probably deserves a game ball. He had a sneaky good game out there for the Los Angeles Rams against the 49ers in this one. The defenders can't hold on to an interception when it hits them in the chest. That was one of our keys to victory, Croc. Try to pressure Matthew Stafford, try to get him uncomfortable. And if he throws you the football, you have to catch it. He could have thrown 4 interceptions this game. He threw none. So, and especially the ones that bounce off the defender's hands. So you can blame the quarterback, and Brock Purdy was not good. He deserves a big chunk of the blame. And again, had some trouble throwing the ball in the rain, which you've seen before from him, but made some okay throws as well. Debo was bad. There was a lot of bad out there. And so
I know it's coming off as if I'm blaming Brock.
Yeah.
I just expect my quarterback, when things aren't going great, this is the guy that's going to figure it out for me. Now, again, are we judging him on being a $900,000 a year quarterback right now? Or am I judging him off of someone who's potentially going to be made the highest paid quarterback in the league this offseason? So if I'm judging them based off of that, then I'm just more critical of making more timely plays in that moment. But if I'm judging him off of what he's being paid now and just say, well, you got all these other things going on, you got these injuries and whatnot, then it's not Brock's fault.
Yeah, no,
but how are we viewing him? Or like, what are the expectations for him? I thought that the expectations were, in these situations, and I've always, this is not me. I saw someone blaming Brock. I'll put it on Jimmy G. I'll put it on, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. I'm always going to say, in these moments where you have a chance, like the 49ers defense was not great tonight, and they did not capitalize on certain opportunities. But I mean, the team had like 6 points. that you know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
Now it's like, okay, offense. Even then, all the stuff that happened early in this game. Now we still got an opportunity to go win this game, right? And you're looking at Purdy in the huddle. All right, hey, this is our time. This is where the legends are made. And you threw a weird interception. Right.
Throw a weird interception. You miss a wide open guy you could throw a touchdown to. You miss Pearsall on the last drive to get you in a better position. You miss him on the sideline, like just a completely bad ball. And then you can't even get off a throw into the end zone for a Hail Mary, even if they could get the ball in the end zone with the, with the wet football in those conditions. I don't even know if that would have happened, but and we'll talk a lot about this in the off season. And so I don't want to dwell on it here with Brock Purdy and an impending contract, but yeah, it's like, do you want Brock Purdy at $900,000? Yes, please give me a dozen of those. Right.
Yeah.
Do you want Brock Purdy at 55, 60 million? I don't know if you want any of those. And that's where it gets pretty dicey with the whole Brock Purdy thing, because like you said, you are looking at your quarterback. If you are that guy, you're that franchise guy, you're going to pay him all this money. He's the dude. You're in the huddle. Okay, guys, it's okay. I got you. We're going to go down here. We're going to score. We're going to win this football game. And it didn't look anything like that in this game when they had the opportunity to do it.
While fans and analysts debate the Buckeyes' playoff chances, one thing is clear: Ryan Day isn't going anywhere.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, regardless of what Ohio State does in the playoff this year, Ross Bjork has a full vote of confidence in Ryan Day, and Day will be the head coach of the Buckeyes in 2025. Now, I know I said it's a feel-good Friday at the top of the show, and some of you may have heard that news, and it didn't make you feel good. Some of you may be fans out there that are out there saying, well, if Ryan Day goes 1-out in the playoff, he's out of here. If Ryan Day doesn't make it to the Final Four, he's up out of here. If Ryan Day doesn't win a national championship this year, he's up out of here. And I know there are fans listening to this show or watching it right now that fall into that camp. But Ross Bjork, his boss, has a full vote of confidence, and he is one that is speaking in absolutes, and he's doubling down on something he said after the Michigan loss. And regardless of what you think about Ryan Day, that's the kind of boss you want. You want a boss that says, no matter what is happening right now, no matter what the Boo Birds are saying, no matter what, I am analyzing you as a head coach. I am analyzing the things you have done, not just this year, but during your 6-year tenure as head coach of the Ohio State Buckeyes, and currently right now has a full vote of confidence in Ryan Day, and that's the kind of boss Ryan Day wants to work for. That's the kind of boss people want to have, is one that believes in them. But Ryan Day got to do something, man. I'm not sitting here saying Ryan Day has a full vote of confidence from me. I mean, trust me, you have heard me earlier this week. Myself and Jason Fitz of Yahoo Sports came on the show, and we kind of discussed our concerns and some of the hesitations that we have with Ryan Day coaching in big-time games. What's going to happen on December 21st in prime time? It's a big-time game. I know it's a playoff game. I know there will be a mix of Ohio State running the show and the playoff running the show. However, whichever way you want to put it, it's a big-time game. And sometimes Ryan Day in big-time games, you don't get the Ryan Day you always want. However, Ryan Day can do some great things with the confidence that his boss has. Use it. Allow that to fuel him to do bigger and better things next year and further. Now, Ross Bjork didn't say anything about 2026 at all. It was the question of the conversation was focused on 2025, and it was regardless of what happens in the CFP. Ohio State could literally lose to Tennessee, and Ross Bjork's not going to fire Ryan Day. Now, Ryan Day does have a $37 million buyout, and I do believe that is factoring into the decision to keep Ryan Day. So I think there's a lot of things Ryan Day has done well. He's 66-10. He's won 2 Big Ten titles. He's been to the playoff 3 times in 4 years. And one thing I noted about Ryan Day, he's never missed a playoff 2 years in a row. Made it in 19, made it in 20, missed it in 21, went back in 22. Missed it in 23, went back in 24. I think that is another big reason why Ross Bjork has the full vote of confidence in Ryan Day. Because there's a lot of coaches out there, Lane Kiffin, there's a lot of coaches out there that can't say that don't have that on their resume. There are a lot of coaches, Dabo Swinney, that can't say that in the past 6 years they've made the playoff 3 times in 4 years, or they never missed it 2 years in a row. A lot of coaches out there can't say that. There's a lot of good things Ryan Day has done. And you know that I'm a little bit down on Ryan Day now. I was down on Ryan Day a year ago, especially after the Cotton Bowl, which I'm not going to dodge because it is on his resume. But something has to change with Ryan Day. It is not just regarding the losses to Michigan. Right now, the way the team is constructed on offense and on defense, heavy impact with the safeties, with the secondary, with the corners. Instead of putting the emphasis on the defensive line, it's a safety-driven defense. Now, that's what Jim Knowles wants, but also in actuality, I think sometimes the guys up front aren't making the impact that is needed from an elite defensive line, which is what Ohio State should have. I am going to echo something that Urban Meyer said about every player and every coach that he coaches or that he worked with. If he hired you, he wanted you to pursue being the best position coach at your position. If you're Heartline, best receiver coach in the country. If you're Tony Alford or now Carlos Loughlin, best running back coach in the country. And he wants you to take that mindset and pursue being the best at your position group, coaching that thing in the entire country. If you're a running back, if you're a JT Barrett or a J.K. Dobbins or fill in the blank player, one of the Bosas, a Sam Hubbard, whoever it is, he wants you to be the best at your position, at your role in the entire country. And I think that's what's missing at Ohio State. And it's under Ryan Day. No matter if Ross Bjork believes in Ryan Day or not, there are guys out there that I don't know if they have the mindset of pursuing being the best at your position. Now, maybe they do, and they just don't put it out there on the field because they can't. I don't know. But I do believe there is something out there that people aren't working to be the best in the country at their position. Do I think Will Howard is working to be the best quarterback in the country? Maybe. We also know that that's not going to be a reality of him and to have a player that he is. Will Howard's done a lot of great things this year. I think there's limitations to him that sometimes hinder the offense. Now, Jeremiah Smith wants to be the best in the country. I think Emeka Buka. Literally, if Emeka Buka was not behind Jeremiah Smith, he would probably be the best number one receiver in the country. There's a lot of good receivers out there, but Emeka Buka, man, smooth operator, baby. That dude just gets it done. There are guys on Caleb Downs, best safety in the country. Lathan Ransom. If it weren't for Caleb Downs, he'd be right there in the conversation for being one of the best safeties in the country. But when it comes to the O-line, the D-line, some of the other very important positions, I don't know if the players have the mindset of being the best at their position in the country. Is that a reflection of Ryan Day? I think so. But even though that's true, Ryan Day's done a lot of winning. Now, the sad part about Ryan Day's resume, with there only being 10 losses, we can look out there and say what the 10 losses are. I don't know why I want to run through them. PTSD might kick in, being a little sarcastic there. But I don't want to run through those losses, man. But those losses are real. But Ryan Day's found ways to tweak things last year heading into this year. He tweaked things in the middle of the season. He's tweaking things right now. Some of the tweaks are positive. Some of the things are negative. But Ryan Day's not afraid to try to tweak things and try to alter things, try to fix things. But sometimes when you're tweaking things, some things need to be tweaked, some things don't. And that's where danger sets in. Because sometimes people try to tweak stuff that doesn't need to be messed with, and it leads to disaster. At the same time, there are things that need to be tweaked with the defense in the middle of the year, and it leads to a very successful run by the Buckeyes defense. Ross Bjork believes in Ryan Day and says Day will be the head coach of the Buckeyes in 2025.
Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more near you. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime.
Jimmy Butler addressed the reports regarding a potential trade, but did we get any real clarity on the situation?
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, let's just jump right into it because we all know what we're going to be here talking about. Jimmy Butler, amid the trade speculation, reports that the Miami Heat are open to listening to offers for him, spoke to the media after Wednesday's practice. He was asked directly about those trade rumors, and he actually said that he liked it. Take a listen.
I actually like it. It's good to be talked about. I don't think there's a such thing as like bad publicity to a point. But you know, somebody talking about me getting traded, that's a lot.
Where do you stand as far as long-term future, hopefully otherwise, with the Miami?
Who knows?
Who knows? says Jimmy Butler. Alex, we'll start with you. Does that sound like somebody who thinks that he'll be in Miami at the end of the season?
It sounds like somebody who, I know this isn't going to be like the take people want to hear, but it probably sounds like somebody who genuinely doesn't know. And I don't think these reports necessarily change that. Had, you put Jimmy in a lie detector test at the start of the season, and you would have asked him, hey, will you be here April 13th or April 9th, the Heat's final regular season game on Sunday at 1 p.m.? I think his answer would have been, I don't know, So I really don't think these reports change anything. And by the way, I heard both of your conversations yesterday on Locked On about this. So I think we're kind of on the same page. And I apologize if I'm not bringing like a totally different perspective. But Jimmy Butler, we've seen him go absolutely crazy in the media and with a front office. Like if he won it out, we would know he won it out. Yesterday, that report gets leaked. He doesn't walk away after practice without getting in front of a camera and saying, Pat Riley, trade my ass. Mm-hmm. So I think because yesterday didn't speak to the media, which is typical with Jimmy Butler, he doesn't usually do post media veils after he practices. Like, it's not a common thing. I shouldn't say it's unusual. People see that and they say, Jimmy's avoiding the media. This must mean something's brewing. And I just don't feel that way. So I think it sounds like somebody who genuinely doesn't know. Like, what are the Heat going to do? How are they feeling? We know how Pat Riley felt before the season. Are we really buying into a 3-game sample size here of them looking incredible or a smaller sample size of this starting lineup looking incredible? I don't think anybody truthfully knows.
David, what do you think?
I think it's pretty similarly. I think the ball kind of seems squarely in Pat Riley in the front office's court. Like they have control over the situation. I think this is different than what we saw from him in Philadelphia, different from we saw him in Chicago or Minnesota. This is not a player trying to force his way out. If he had his druthers, I think his preference would be to get paid a hell of a lot of money, stay in Miami, keep his family here, and enjoy the life that he's been living over the past 6 seasons. And I don't know that that's realistic. And so I think that's where the crux of the conflict is that he's not going to get all of those things. He doesn't get to decide that. And so it's up to Riley to kind of make that choice and determine, look, we tried to negotiate something with your agent, Bernie Lee. You want the max? We're not giving you the max. And this is just me reading between the lines, but I think based on what, we've seen from Bernie Lee and the comments and the reports from Shams just yesterday, and we see Jimmy's reaction. And look, he's playful. He likes teasing the media. Mm-hmm. We know that. For people who are watching this on YouTube, obviously you can see that kind of smirk, tongue-in-cheek expression that he's got there. But I think he kind of he knows that something is happening, something is brewing, and yet he's not in control of it. He is not, as Alex said, dictating things. He's not demanding a trade. He's just not going to be able to call the shots the way he did in other locations. And so that's where the awkwardness comes in, because who knows? Who knows what could happen? If somebody gets a deal that makes sense to Miami and the front office, they'll take it. And that's just the reality.
Yeah, I mean, like we said on yesterday's show, David, it's like he used to be a guy where you just hung up the phone. He's not the guy where you just hang up the phone anymore. Sometimes there's guys who are superstars, but you got to listen. And Jimmy Butler in Miami has been treated like a superstar. He's mostly been paid like a superstar. I don't think he wants to leave Miami either. I mean, heck, I don't really know how opening up a brick and mortar business works and how long the ramp up is to that, but I don't imagine that you open up a big faced coffee, in the design district and if you were trying to get out of here. But for the first time in Jimmy's career, I mean, not the first time necessarily, because this is what happened when he left Chicago, but he's not in control. And like David, you just said, like, okay, you could stay in Miami. You're going to get paid a whole lot less money. I know you keep saying that you don't care about money, but we all know that that's BS. Like, who doesn't care? Like, I'm not even like accusing him of anything, but it's like, whatever. Right. Like, so, okay, you're not going to get the max contract, but you can stay in Miami, or maybe you can go somewhere else and get that max contract. So those are kind of the things that he's going to have to decide, or I guess maybe not, since I guess it does not feel like it's in his control anymore. It's kind of up to the Heat to do what's best for the Heat. And as tough as it might be to see Jimmy Butler walk away, Pat Riley can't think like that. He can't think emotionally. He has to think about what's best for the organization. Alex, it looked like you wanted to say something there. You want to jump in? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just want to point out that, people scroll through social media. That's how everybody gets their info nowadays,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm guilty of it as well. And you see the tweet, Jimmy Butler, when asked if he wants to be in Miami, quote, "Who knows?" Right? Like, no context. And we see the video, and we know how Jimmy is with the media. We have that luxury, obviously, but I think most people know he's always very coy and
Right. That's why I included the video here. I wanted people to see it. Yeah.
Right. And today, so I'm doing the Hawk and Crowder show, and at 2 p.m., first thing they come on the air, they're like, "Oh, did you read Jimmy's quotes?" I say, hey, I have the audio here. Listen to the audio with me and tell me if this sounds like somebody who genuinely, as it reads or as it sounds, like, how do you feel about it? And I think there's an important delineation there between how are you reading the headline and how is Jimmy Butler actually saying this, given the context of how Jimmy Butler approaches his conversations with the media, and to the fact that Jimmy doesn't control this outcome anymore. That's how the NBA wants it, right? They tried to take some of the power back from the players. The fact that Jimmy Butler can't force his hand and say, "Hey, Heat, you're going to lose me this offseason if you don't either trade me or pay me, because I'll go sign with anybody else." Well, it doesn't work that way anymore because of the cap construct of the NBA right now. So there's only a certain amount of teams that can. So again, going back to, and you guys touched on this yesterday, it doesn't surprise me that this is being talked about now. I don't know for sure that it's coming from Bernie Lee. I don't know if this is Jimmy Butler. Like, I don't know for sure, but I have a feeling, a very good feeling, that it's not from the Heat, and that right now Jimmy Butler just doesn't have any sort of control over what happens. And he understands that if the Heat aren't going to give him the extension, which right now it feels like they're not, then he's going to have to opt in and not get to go title chase somewhere.
Would you give him the extension? Sorry, I just want to get your take. What would you give him the extension? Because we've debated it here, but maybe an outsider perspective. Yeah, how would you feel about what he gets paid, and how much do you think he is, quote unquote, deserving at this point?
I mean, ask me in April. You know, like, I hate. I know that's an easy out, and I'm sorry, but it is. It is. I know. But what if Jimmy Butler, and it's not likely. I realize this. I know it's not likely. This is me, Heat glasses on, culture glasses on, right? Like, but what if Jimmy Butler turns into playoff Jimmy again in April or May? Honestly, and Tyler Hero is playing at this level, and the Heat stay healthy. I mean, I'm not saying that they're going to win an NBA title, but it would still feel how it felt coming off of 2023 and how we all talked ourselves into before Kelly Oubre takes out Jimmy's knee, which is, hey, it might click again in the playoffs. Like, who knows, you know? So I realize there's clearly a gap in talent between the Celtics and the Bucks and the teams that got better, the Knicks, right? Like, there's clearly the Cavs, right? Like, there's an obvious gap between what those teams did and what the Heat did. But the Miami Heat are a stubborn franchise, and it usually works for them following this type of, I don't know if you want to call it a routine or just structure or process. And they like their guys, you know, but at a certain point, like you're asking me, are they going to give them the extension or not? I think this specific year, the Heat are approaching it as, hey, this either works this year or it doesn't.
Yeah.
And
it feels
I think
like a last
everybody
dance.
involved understands that.
Yeah,
Right.
it feels like a last dance, and I think that's why you have Jimmy saying, who knows, when asked if he is going to remain a member of the Miami Heat, because he genuinely doesn't. And look, to David's point, or to your point, and I think it was a great one, like, this is what the NBA wants, is for these super teams not to exist and for the players not to have all this empowerment and stuff. The unintended consequence of all of this was with the new CBA and this apron world that we live in, is that beloved superstars in their home markets have to get traded because of pure finances, and it's not for basketball reasons anymore. And that's the part that is really kind of hanging over the Heat. Like, if this first apron, second apron stuff wasn't a thing, it used to just be up to the owner to just be like, I'm just going to pay all these guys, and we'll go over the cap, and it'll be really expensive, and there's some luxury taxes, and that hurts, but it wasn't hurting enough. And it wasn't hurting like just the purse strings, but also before, it used to not hurt your roster building. Now there's like limitations that if you hit a certain, salary payroll, like, you literally can't do things with your roster. You start losing draft picks even if you have too high of a payroll, and so it becomes untenable. And I think this was like a real unfortunate consequence that the league put in. So hey, you wanted everybody to be even and all that. So I don't know. Congrats, I guess, NBA.
Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Let's get into what matters for the Cincinnati Bengals.
You are Locked On Bengals, your daily Cincinnati Bengals podcast.
Because T. Higgins is either seeking new representation or has new representation, is regardless not working with David Mulugheta any longer. And the Bengals have a very clear history of not being able to get deals done with premier David Mulugheta clients, in particular, Jesse Bates being the most recent example. Hard to read this in any other way than something may have changed there.
It's huge because over the past 5 days, and if you would have asked me Monday morning, I would have said, man, wide receiver is going to be such a huge need. Like maybe they tag and trade him and get an extra pick, but T. Higgins isn't back. And now, as we record this Thursday evening, it's the opposite. It feels like the pressure is on the Bengals to get it done. By the way, the Bengals front office, to be clear, that Joe has made it very, very clear. Jamar Chase today making it very, very clear that they want the Bengals big three to stay together. And of course, I agree. The Bengals are better with T. The Bengals, certainly, when you look at all of the holes that they have on this roster potentially this offseason, the last thing you want to do is go into the offseason with two receivers you really believe in, with Jamar Chase and Andre Yosevach. So if you have T in that mix, in those future plans, well, sign me up. And from an agent standpoint, it never felt like it was realistic with David Mulugheta. That doesn't mean David Mulugheta is a bad agent. In fact, I think it's the other way. I think David Mulugheta is willing to do anything and everything to get his client paid. Even if it gets ugly. Even if it goes nuclear. He does not care. He's going to get you paid. And that's great. That's his job. And he's going to get a ton of athletes paid over his career, and he's already done so with a bunch of guys, including Jesse Bates, as you mentioned. But if T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow want to stay together, if they want to be the Bengals' big three, much like any other big three, there's going to be sacrifices. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to have to take less overall, but maybe it's a little less guaranteed, or it's a certain structure, or it's this, or it's that. And I will say this, I did kind of joke with T last offseason or last season at the end of the year about hypothetical numbers that I told him. And I did this with Jamar in April. So it's not like here's what I would offer you, right? We talk about it every day, right? With this stuff. So I might as well tell the players what I'm saying on the pod. So I'm like, yeah, this is what I would offer you this season, T. And it wasn't astronomical. It wasn't crazy. It's something that I would have said on here. I probably said on here multiple times. And he was like, ooh, like in a good way. Like would have probably accepted it. But would his agent have accepted it? Who knows? Well, now it feels like that element is gone. We're getting an extra $1 million or $2 million per year from the Patriots. T might be like, yeah, I might get a little more on the open market, but I'm getting market value from the Bengals. If I'm getting market value and catching passes from Joe Burrow and playing with Jamar Chase, sign me up all day long. And I think that's where we're probably at.
It could be. I don't want to rule anything out at this point. It is interesting, though, how much the tenor has shifted. I don't disagree with that. Like, it goes from someone replied to a tweet of mine during the game, and I said something along the lines of, sign me up for Jamar Chase 20 targets a game for the rest of the year. And the comment in reply was, that's not sustainable. I was like, yeah, but it's fun. and the person comes back and says, no, I mean, that's not sustainable in a future where T. Higgins isn't on the team. And that's the frame of mind that they were coming at it with, which is like, you can't just build your offense around having one receiver.
No doubt.
And so it goes from, like you said, if you asked on Monday or last Monday or last Friday or whatever, a week ago, and just as recently as a fan replying to me during the game and saying, like, he's going to be gone, to now, which is, it's not a 1% or 0.01% chance anymore. That's not how it feels, right? There's still a chance, and probably a good chance that T. Higgins could want to still test free agency. That's still certainly possible, right? We can't say that T's going to get a deal done with the Bengals. It's, you can't say that today. I would say they can't negotiate with him right now, right? But it feels a whole lot different when you've got this agent change, knowing the contentious, we think, relationship between Mulligetta and the Bengals that we've seen play out in the past, that we saw play out with T last very offseason, I guess. That is a huge change. And the way that Joe is talking about T. Higgins this week, and Jamar is talking about T. Higgins this week, to your point, in his press conference on Thursday, saying T deserves to be here. He wants to be here. And T all along saying that he wants to be in Cincinnati, does feel significantly different this Thursday than it did last Thursday, or really any point since last year, earlier, like long time, where T. Higgins' future with the Bengals has looked very doubtful until this week.
Yeah, I mean, there are some that think the moment they drafted Jamar, it was like, all right, well, the writing's on the wall for T. Like, going all the way back then, if you wanted to, like, oh, well, they're only going to pay one of these guys. You're not going to keep two. And the Joe comments doubling down, and by now we haven't talked about him, what he said on Wednesday at length, but like, I wasn't there on Monday. I wasn't there on Monday. So to follow it up, and my goal was to be like, all right, well, let's see how Joe feels. So I asked him about T. Higgins' importance. And then the follow-up was like, oh, well, would you be disappointed if the front office doesn't get it done? Very disappointed. Oh, well, how do you handle building the roster, essentially, is what was the next question about T. And it's like, well, we have wants and needs, essentially. We'll have to figure out our need list. Is T a need, Joe? Yes, T is a need. Boom. Need.
Yeah, very clear.
So there are going to be a lot of people that say, oh, well, no, you need this, or you need that on defense, or this interior or pass rush, or this interior offensive line. You need those things, and you want to. No. Joe just said it. And so now the message is to the front office. And by the way, the front office can ensure that T. Higgins does not get to free agency, can ensure that they have a long negotiating window, and tag him again for $26 million. I'm sure he wouldn't love the tag, but if the tag is to extend him, which it didn't feel like it was last year, given his agent, and it was contentious.
And given everything we know, like, we believe, based on what we know, there weren't negotiations after the franchise tag. Nothing significant.
Exactly. And when I say they were contentious between both sides, it doesn't mean they were yelling at each other. I just think they realized that neither one was budging.
Mm-hmm.
And so if neither one is budging, well, now whoever represents T next is probably going to say, hey, I'm going to get you a deal done. You want to be in Cincinnati? Let's get this deal done. Boom. That's it. And so I think the Bengals are in a much better position with T, Jamar, and Joe all on long-term deals than Jamar, Joe, and no T and a little extra money to spend, because they have plenty of money and plenty of cap space to make it work.
And I think that it's important not to learn the wrong lesson from when they were able to build the defense through free agency before, because they've tried to do it many other times and free agency just doesn't have a high hit rate. So when you have a great player, you keep your great players. And hopefully that is the right lesson the Bengals are learning, because I don't know how else you spend that money and actually make the team significantly better. That'd be very hard to do.
No, you don't. And there would be so many people that talk about positions. Wide receiver is as valuable of a position. That's why they're paid so much. as valuable as it's ever been. And he's the 4th best player on the team right now.
And even if they spend on other positions in free agency, we've seen them try. It doesn't always work.
Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more near you. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime.
New man on campus, specifically new quarterback.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We like big-time plays. We like a lot of highlights when you're talking about what to get out of your quarterback position. And anytime you're moving on from a guy who led you to a 9-3 football season, you want to be kind of wowed by the quarterback that comes in. Is it fair for Duke fans to be a little bit wowed by what they're going to get in Darian Mensah, Connor?
Yeah, I think so. I think more than anything, you're wowed and encouraged by the room for growth there is with Darian Mensah. Like he's a 1-year starter. He's got, the 1 year under his belt and a redshirt season. He was very lightly recruited. I think rivals had him as a 2-star and maybe only logged offers from Tulane and maybe a couple FCSs. So it's not like it's certainly a vastly different pedigree than Malik Murphy coming in as a high 4-star with 2 years of Texas under his belt for a team that went to the CFP. With Darian, I mean, you've got some of the same traits and characteristics. You're still not getting a legit dual threat who's going to run for 600 yards on the ground and that kind of thing, but you're getting a little bit more mobility. And like I said, just to go back to it, I mean, I think the enticing thing here is hearing that Darian values getting a Duke degree. I always think it's kind of silly when we talk about these transfers and we talk about how many years of eligibility they have left, because there's nothing that guarantees they're going to use all of them at the school. Like with immediate eligibility for any transfer of any kind, it almost renders that discussion meaningless to me. But hearing that he values a degree, I mean, that gives you some optimism that this is not another 1-year rental, that he wants to be at Duke, that he wants to get his degree, that he wants to put in a couple years. He's got 3 of them. So maybe he uses all 3 and maybe takes Duke's football program to the next level, and they stay ahead of the school that just hired a 72-year-old curmudgeon as their football coach.
Yeah, a lot going on in the world of ACC football, particularly within our state, down the road there in Chapel Hill. Fun things to kind of monitor there. But, I mean, this was pretty quick. We'll get to Malik Murphy here in just a little bit. But just how rapid this went, I hear a lot of chatter in the world of football these days, and it's becoming more and more true that, in terms of high school recruiting, we focus a lot on basketball recruiting in the Duke side of things, obviously. In many positions, you kind of want to be the last school to get a visit, to be able to kind of make your pitch to this player about what kind of impact they can make at your team. That has been the opposite storyline across the country in this transfer portal. I mean, guys say, I'm going to go here, here, and here. And so frequently, they never make it to those future spots. The first place they go is able to kind of get them locked in and solid. So good for Duke to be there right out of the gates for this.
I think it's a maturity thing. And I think when you're a high school kid and you get their last visit, that's when you're in the prime position, because that's the kid that has been wooed by other people. And now you're able to make the great final impression. The kid in the transfer portal who's already been through the high school recruiting process once, even if a kid like Darian, who was lightly recruited, you want to get there first, because that is a kid that probably doesn't, most of the time, that's a kid that doesn't want to be recruited again. He just wants to figure out where he's going to go.
Right.
The joke that I still make a year later,
when Shohei Ohtani goes from the Angels and has everybody bidding for his services and just throwing out outrageous numbers. He stays in the same city. He goes to the Dodgers. And it just, like, at the end of the day, guys just don't want to move.
Yeah, we saw it this summer with Juan Soto. He doesn't want to move from New York. He just goes from the Yankees to the Mets.
These guys just don't want to move. So I think along those lines, like, you don't want to drag the process out when you're in the portal. And it's also, part of it's the timing, because all of these schools, when you enter the portal right away, they want to get you onto campus before Christmas. So they want to hammer you out. They also want to get you in for spring ball. And to be in for spring ball, you have to be enrolled for the spring semester. That enrollment for the spring semester has to occur before, like, it varies school to school, but it usually
before it starts.
Yeah, think of the first couple of days of January as the drop dead day, and that's 3 weeks away right now. It seems far away, but God, December goes by like that. So that's where these schools, I think, it's not more pressure than they put on high school kids to get an early commitment and get them locked in and signed up, but it's a different type of pressure. It's like, we want you here in the spring because we want you learning the offense when you're not, 600 miles away and on somebody else's campus doing somebody else's workouts.
The visit to Durham clearly paid off. I mean, it worked. Darian Mensah commits to Duke. He's there Tuesday night inside Cameron Indoor Stadium. The Crazies do the infamous "Come Sit With Us" song and dance there, bringing him across the floor to kind of enjoy a little bit of that game with the Cameron Crazies, experience Duke to its absolute fullest, and now he gets the opportunity to be the Blue Devils quarterback. NIL plays a factor in everything, and when you're looking across the board, you could see that this is, according to ESPN and so many other outlets, the number one transfer portal target in the country. How soon, Connor, is it until we're in a world where, like, hey, that figure is kind of known for all of these players? Like, this is what it took to get a player like this to come over, because right now it's kind of all speculation and schools aren't really putting it out there what they officially agreed to financially with star players. But you and I are smart enough to understand there was something involved behind this business decision made by Mensah.
No, absolutely. I saw something said, I think it was even before he went into the portal, that his agents or his agency was founded by Lil Wayne and the grandson of the founder of Anheuser-Busch.
Well, there you go.
To give you an idea of
how we're working with.
Just to give you an idea of how wacky of a world this has become in like 3 years' time. I'm counting the days, I'm counting the hours. It's a lot of hours, but until we get some kind of collective bargaining and there can be public contracts with this and there can be multi-year deals, I don't know how that happens, because the players have the power right now. I have such little tolerance, and I spend very little time actually like trying to track down NIL numbers, because everybody has every incentive to lie and nobody has any incentive to be truthful. The schools want bigger numbers out there because other potential recruits or other high school recruits can see those numbers and say, well, if they're giving that guy that much, then
that's real smart.
That's what I can be making, in a year or two. The kids want bigger numbers out there because that's human nature, and you want your friends, your family, you want people to know you're making a lot of money. There's just, like I said, there's no incentive to be truthful when it comes to NIL reporting. I can't stand the On3 evaluations, because they're just guesses. They're based on formula that involves Twitter followers and Instagram followers and all that. And I can't wrap my head around placing any significance or importance on how many Twitter followers somebody has.
You and I got to step our game up. Go follow us, _JJ_Jackson_ He's at Connor O'Neill _DI. Get the followers up, man. We need our NIL evaluation.
My On3 valuation would be negative money. Like I would have to pay somebody to be sponsored by them.
Oh, that's good stuff. All right, so Duke has a new quarterback. It's Darian Mensah from Tulane.